Greetings, this is Ty Brown with AthleticDirectorU. And I'm here with Ron Wellman, Athletic Director at Wake Forest. Greetings, Ron. Thanks for joining us.
Great to be with you, Ty.
Now I want to talk to you a little bit about consistency. You've been in college athletics for roughly 48 years and the Director of Athletics there at Wake Forest for 26 years. There's some longevity and consistency there. Really, consistency as almost an asset or competitive advantage. Can you talk to us about how you've been able to achieve at a high level, especially as college athletics has grown over the last 25 to 30 years there at Wake Forest?
Well, I think you need to continue to evolve, even though you try to be consistent in your core values and what you believe in and the way you approach each and every day. You also need to be evolving all the time and learning from others and advancing. If I were the same person as I was just 10 years ago, I don't know that would work so well. So there's an awful lot of dependency upon others to show how we might improve, and even though we are attempting to be consistent, we're also attempting to change and understand the times and understand the people today and understand this generation today versus yesteryear. And so while consistency is an asset in many instances, it can't be a situation where you're so consistent to what you did previously that it doesn't let you advance today.
Essentially, finding success in consistency through being willing to change.
Right? Exactly, if that makes any sense. But you're exactly right. If you're not willing to change, if you're not willing to advance and listen to others and learn from them, then you're not going to succeed in the long term.
So, now you've been doing it for 26 years in terms of Wake Forest. And when an athletic director comes in, you take an assessment of the situation, you analyze, and then you create your strategic plan. And then you tell everybody, or actually you probably collaborate with everyone to come up with your guiding principles, your core values. Have your core values been consistent over 26 years? And what are those that have led you to find, I guess you say, broad-based success over the 26 years as athletic director?
Well, you hope your core values remain consistent, and if you don't have that foundation, then you don't have much at all. So we want our core values to remain consistent. At the same time, we have to be willing to change, and we have to be willing to understand where people are coming from and what today's society expects. So while the core values are important and we have those pillars in our department, we also want to recognize that we need to continue to evolve and be people of the current generation and understand that current generation and what makes them tick.
That's an important aspect because the ages of the student athletes stay the same, right? Over 26 years, you're always dealing with 18 to 22-year-olds. So that means you do have to find a way to stay relevant in their eyes, right? And then find a way to keep them motivated. How have you done that? I mean, you think about 26, I mean, you've been there for a quarter of a century, am I? How have you?
We have been, and I think a lot of that is your attempts to relate to them, your attempts to understand them, your conversations with coaches. They will tell you an awful lot about this generation or whatever generation we are in. So just being a part of them, not removing yourself from their world, but trying to be a part of their world while exposing them to your world as well. We also have children of our own, and they are very helpful in that process. And we have grandchildren, and they are very helpful in our ability to understand what the youth today are thinking and the way they are behaving.
Right. Now, when you talk about long-term leadership and consistency, how do you avoid complacency? How do you identify it if you saw it amongst your staff or coaches or people within your organization or even on campus, the greater campus, right? How do you identify it and then address it so that you can continue on to be successful as a leader?
Complacency is someone being tired, someone not enjoying what they're doing. And as long as we see people who enjoy what they are doing, we know that they are going to give it their best, and there isn't going to be complacency in anything that they do. They are always going to attempt to be cutting edge and creative, and how can I improve what we are currently doing. And I think that's the earmark of a very good coach, or great coaches and great administrators, is that they remain cutting edge while remaining consistent with their core values. And sometimes that's a fine line that you walk, and it's a balancing act. But I find that whether they be student athletes or coaches or administrators, those who enjoy what they are doing are not going to be complacent. They're always going to look for those factors that will allow them to improve.
Well, and taking that a step further, when you see that, if you've seen it, I would imagine everything hasn't been perfect in 26 years, but if you've seen that, if you've seen that, and I'm talking more in terms of staff, right? In terms of staff, the administrators you hire, if you've seen someone who you think may be inching towards complacency, do you assume that maybe there's something else going on, or is it that, hey, maybe it might be a time for a change for this person or for us or something like that?
You never know if something else is going on unless you communicate with them. And so we try to have open lines of communication. We try to understand people not only at the professional level, but at the personal level, and what is going on in their lives personally, what's happening with their families and so forth. We talk about compartmentalizing personal life and professional life, and you can't do that. It's just impossible to do that. Whatever is happening at home, those factors are going to be evident in the workplace as well. So it's important for us to understand that individual and know what is going on in their lives, so we can apply that to what we are doing in the workplace as well.
Right. Over time, have you been able to maybe put in systems or processes that when somebody may need some assistance, or somebody else has identified, hey, something may be going on with Johnny, I don't know, Ron, if you want to talk to him, is there a process, or even just the relationships I guess you may have with them?
Well, relationships are extremely important, and what we try to do is find the individual who can talk with that person in a very candid manner, that is a non-threatening manner, and encourage them and offer help. Just be there for that individual if they're experiencing difficulties, and also talk with them about how we can help them in the workplace get through whatever they are going through personally.
Right. Now, thinking about athletics, it's an ever-evolving industry in terms of people, in terms of gameplay, in terms of thought. And, I wonder, in the grander society, consistency, do you feel like consistency is still a valued trait in terms of, I guess, society, in terms of athletics, in terms of the entirety of people? Like, I know its value, I'm sure you understand its value, but do you think people, especially young people, do they understand the value of consistency in leadership?
I think consistency is valued if it doesn't lead to complacency.
Right.
If consistency is aligned with someone who is stagnated and not enthused about what they're doing, no, that's not valued. But if consistency is a consistency of core values and what you believe in, and the way you behave, and the way you respect people, the way you treat people, then that is valued for sure. But it cannot lead to complacency in the workplace. That will not be valued whatsoever.
Now, I recently did an interview with a couple football coaches, and one had been at his institution for 20 some odd years. The other one had been in the profession for a while, longtime leader. And one of the things they talked about is trying to identify, when you've had that broad-based success over time, it's important to change, but when do you, if it's working, when do you decide that it's time to change a process or anything?
Well, there's always a time to change, and regardless of the success that you have doesn't mean that you are successful in absolutely everything that you are doing. So it's really important to get feedback from your colleagues as to what their feelings are about what areas are we being successful in and what areas can we improve in, and then be willing to address those areas that need to be improved or that can be improved. And that is, again, open lines of communication and trusting one another to give honest feedback and constructive criticism, and making sure that those moments that you have with those individuals are candid moments, and that it is constructive and everyone takes those comments in that manner.
Right. I'll ask you a couple questions here and we'll wrap it up. One question is relative to the grander institution. You being there as a consistent leader in athletics, how do you feel like that has benefited the campus as a whole in terms of the allegiances you have on campus and just the window to campus that athletics provides?
Well, over the years, you develop relationships, and I don't think there's anything more important than the relationships that you have with people in general. And the more positive relationships that you have on campus, the more beneficial it is going to be to your program, the athletic program in this particular case, and the campus as a whole. We are fortunate in that we are a small university, and those relationships can be developed a bit easier. Our access to one another, our availability to one another is much greater than it probably is on a larger campus. So those relationships are critical to our success in the athletic department, but I believe it's also critical to the university as a whole.
Right, exactly. I'll wrap with this question. And you think about student athletes, you think about staff, you think about people, that alumni and donors that have worked with you and for you for the last 26 years. In life and in athletics, we face setbacks, we face challenges, celebrations. How do you help the people around you understand the value of consistency with evolving and change? Why that's important? If you're going to be a consistent leader, being willing to evolve is important. How have you done that to help people around you understand the value?
I think people admire consistency in that it gives them the latitude to make decisions on their own. If they know that there is a consistent foundation within our organization, then they are going to have the freedom and the comfort of making decisions on their own, because the framework of the organization, and again, the core values are established. And if they are making the decisions to benefit our department within those core values, within that framework, then they're going to be much more productive and much more comfortable in what they are doing. And the more comfortable people are in their jobs and in their tasks, I think the more productive they are. And the more productive they are, the better our organization is going to be.
Exactly. You're productive, and if you're productive, you're motivated to continue to be productive, like a cycle, a productive motivation cycle type thing. Well, excellent. This has been a great conversation, very educational for me. I really appreciate you joining us here at Athletic Director.
Well, thank you, Ty. It's been a pleasure.
That was Ron Wellman. He's the Director of Athletics at Wake Forest, and of course, this is Ty Brown with AthleticDirectorU. And keep in mind, the role of a leader is to create and maintain an environment that people want to be a part of. And as always, be better tomorrow than you are today.